What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 10-team full PPR mock where we will be selecting from the 8th overall position. Our roster, similar as always, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. That's pretty much everything you need to know. So let's kick it off. And while we wait, a quick reminder, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree with these picks? What do you think of our roster, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Available now for purchase at a great value. Everything you could want from top 150 over player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this draft. And boy, oh boy, we've had an interesting start to this thing. Let's quickly break it down. But you see a run on running backs and 1 wide receiver already off the board, but maybe not the name you were expecting. So Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, then Najee Harris. I'd personally have Dalvin Cook ahead of Najee Harris. You can even make the case about Derrick Henry. But those guys were drafted shortly thereafter. However, the name sandwiched in between them, Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings, 5th overall. And not that I necessarily hate the pick. I don't. I think you can make the argument that Justin Jefferson can be the wide receiver 1 this season. I definitely think you can. But I'm more so intrigued because Cooper Kupp is still available for us now at the 108. And normally I would go running back here. I also do think this is a really interesting break point where you could go a lot of different directions, especially if you're in a running back heavy type of league with your league mates that realize the value of the running back position. Like at this point in time, if there's a tier break per your rankings, it might make sense to take a wide receiver. And I think you can make that case here with Cooper Kupp. Like the running backs that I'm going to be considering would be guys like a Joe Mixon, guys like a DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley type of guys. But I know I'm going to be able to get one of them in the second round. But Cooper Kupp right now is a great value. And there's pretty much only 2 wide receivers that I would take in the first round. And probably, I'd prefer only 1, Cooper Kupp, or just Justin Jefferson, primarily because, again, I think you should be maximizing the running back position in the first round, like just running back. But here I'm lucky because I'm going to have close back-to-back picks, so I can go running back in the second round and get, an RB1 in my eyes. So what I'm trying to say by highlighting all of that is Cooper Kupp is a good value. Let's get him and then get one of those guys that we talked about in the second round. So what happened here is that you saw, actually, funny enough, all the guys that we mentioned, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and Aaron Jones, are off the board. Saquon Barkley is still there. Jamar Chase went off the board. So we could go with an Alvin Kamara here, even though I will say I am a little bit worried about the potentially pending suspension. So if I was doing this in a way where I wanted to play it safe and just get proven production, just without a doubt, somebody that I could rely on, I could go wide receiver here. And honestly, this isn't how I planned this video to go when I started the recording, but I'm going to play around with going 2 wide receivers. And don't worry, this ain't going to be a zero running back draft video. We're going to hit the running back position hard, but we're going to go with a wide receiver here. And I say wide receiver because I could also go Travis Kelce, but I think I can get a decent tight end like in the 5th or 6th round. Maybe we get lucky and a George Kittle or Darren Waller falls to us. So assuming maybe a Waller is there, I'll go with Stephon Diggs here. I think him and Devontae Adams are pretty close together. But I just wouldn't want to potentially have Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, both on the same offense. So we're gonna go with Stephon Diggs there, get our 2 stud, wide receivers, and now let's again take a look at what has taken place. So Travis Kelce went shortly thereafter. That makes sense. Alvin Kamara, Kyle Pitts, So a run on tight ends, actually. And the wrong tight end is going number 2 overall. It should be Mark Andrews. Devontae Adams, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott. But I should mention with Kyle Pitts, like, because the way these computers draft here on Fantasy Pros is based off a kind of average of all these quote unquote experts and their rankings. It just basically shows that some people have Kyle Pitts ranked very, very high, but in no way, shape, or form should he be ranked higher than Kelsey or Andrews. That's the takeaway there. Then you see Devontae Adams, Leonard Fournette, Zeke going in the second round. I don't mind seeing that. I actually don't. I think that he is a guy that can be a top 10 running back, borderline. CeeDee Lamb, then Mark Andrews, Debo, Nick Chubb going ahead of Saquon Barkley. I do not agree with that. And then you see Tyreek, Saquon. I was really hoping Saquon Barkley would fall to us. A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. I'd say probably a month ago Saquon Barkley falls to us. But people are like coming around to his ADP and that he should be higher, and realizing the Giants have an improved offensive line and that he's 2 years removed from his injury and that he's the focal point of this offense. So, yeah, I mean, he is going to be a guy that has his ADP probably come September in the second round. But here, this is our team. Let's see what we're working with. And, I do want to go running back at this point in time. T. Higgins is tempting, but, I mean, we're going running back. The two names, Javonte Williams, James Conner, are the two highest ranked guys at this point in time. Everything that I've said about Javonte Williams still holds true. I've said that you should be going, I personally wouldn't be touching him in the third round. We're in the third round. I've prefaced it by saying, unless you've punted at the running back position and you're just going for upside. But, if James Conner wasn't here, I'd probably go with Javonte Williams, honestly, just for the upside. Actually, no, Travis Etienne is still available. So I'd go James Conner and Etienne ahead of Javonte Williams. So let's do this. Let's go James Conner first. And I think there's a higher chance that, if I want to end up with Conner and Etienne, that, Conner is picked ahead of Etienne just because of the ranking. And I'm actually kind of surprised I'm getting James Conner here in the third round. I do think he can still be a high-end RB2, so I'm happy with that. Let's draft him here and then see what happens with these next couple of picks. I'm assuming that Javonte Williams will have been selected, and that holds true. So it was James Conner by us, then Javonte Williams, then Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen there was a very, very good value. Now we are looking at, again, running back position. David Montgomery, Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, the next three highest ranked running backs. I don't want to risk it here, folks. I like Travis Etienne more so than David Montgomery. I need a second running back. I'm going Etienne. We could potentially get very, very lucky and have Etienne fall to us. I'm not taking a chance on that. I'm drafting him right now. And we start off with James Conner and Etienne, and I feel very, fortunate to have that combination. Now, I'm, a little bit disappointed because I saw some names here that I was really hoping would fall to us. So let's kind of break it down. In the fourth round, you saw Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, Cam Akers. Way too early for Cam Akers. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Coming off the most brutal injury, arguably in sports, the Achilles, running back by committee with Darrell Henderson. No, thank you. T. Higgins towards the end of the fourth round, tremendous value. Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery. David Montgomery at the end of the fourth round, very good value as well. DJ Moore, so just all wide receivers here and one tight end. DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, Brennan Cooks. That one tight end, Darren Waller, he was the guy that I was hoping would fall to us. Does not happen. Cortland Sutton, Chris Godwin, and then our guy, Allen Robinson, sniped right before we can get him. That's brutal. So I was really hoping we could get him as our flex. I would have felt very, very good about that. I think you'd argue that our wide receivers were the strongest here with Kupp and Diggs and then Allen Robinson. But it's okay. I think now if we want to go wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, who actually is the top suggestion, is very tempting. Somebody like going down the list, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, Marquise Brown, all those guys are tempting. I also mentioned it before. I think going with a tight end here, is potentially also a good move because if you look at this, there are two people selecting after us, and neither of them have a tight end. And I think the way this is, the system is built, there's a good chance that one of these selections will be a tight end, and the next highest ranked tight end is George Kittle. So it makes more sense for me to draft him here instead of waiting until the 6th round and potentially missing out on him. And then there's basically more depth at the wide receiver position than there is at tight end. I will say goodbye to Terry McLaurin, but I could still potentially get Marquise Brown or Mike Williams. So I really like that. Let's go with George Kittle now. I think that is the way to do it. Getting that positional advantage at the tight end position, it's a really, really big deal here in these 10-team leagues. So let's see what happens. Actually, boy, I was wrong on all accounts. So George Kittle was our pick, then Rashad Bateman, then J.K. Dobbins, then 2 quarterbacks, Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert. Quarterback wasn't even remotely on my radar. There's only been one quarterback drafted. It was Josh Allen at the 408. Sure, we can go Lamar Jackson, we can go Patrick Mahomes, but I'm building out our starting roster. Terry McLaurin is still available. He was a guy that, I was referencing before that we could draft. I'm going to take a chance on him now. Having Terry McLaurin as our 3rd wide receiver is something I feel pretty good about. I think Carson Wentz there is an upgrade at the quarterback position. Other guys that I would be going with here, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown are the names. So I honestly think probably won't happen, but I was going to say maybe there's an outside chance one of those guys falls to us. But no, I'm really happy we got Terry McLaurin as our 3rd wide receiver, as our flex. So let's see what happened after that. So I'm assuming I was about to say, and of course it shows it, a run on quarterbacks. So Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Lamar. Okay, stop, pause. Lamar Jackson went in the 7th round after Joe Burrow and Russell Wilson. That's asinine. No. So let's point that out. He's a tier 1 quarterback with huge rushing upside. So Marquise Brown was drafted at the 606, Mike Williams at the 608. I expected as much. Honestly, I did. Then Darnell Mooney at the 702. I was hoping maybe he falls to us. Michael Thomas, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Hopkins, and A.J. Dillon. So we could go a quarterback here, but, I do want to point out every single team has a quarterback. So there's no reason at this point to go quarterback. Somebody like let's quickly look, Matthew Stafford or Derek Carr, will it be available to us? That's a guarantee. So instead, we can go running back here. We can go wide receiver. Who are guys that you like upside-wise? And I honestly might do something unprecedented, and that's take a chance on a running back that I've been avoiding like the plague, but we've gotten to the, 7th round, and we've already got our starting running backs taken care of. Wide receiver, I do think there's, a fall off at this point in time. I guess we could go Juju Smith-Schuster. That is a name to think about. But honestly, I'm going to go Breece Hall here. And everything I've said before about Breece Hall is true. But there's a difference between getting Breece Hall in the 7th round, the end of the 7th round, as opposed to in the 3rd round. So that's night and day. And I say it all the time. As much as you might be out on a certain player, at certain points in the draft, if they're still available, like, every guy can be a good pick, as many risks as they have. So I think Breece Hall at this point fits that category. So let's draft him. We need another running back. We need some more depth. Breece Hall, welcome to the team. Again, I want to go on record. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 running back. I don't think he is going to be that next rookie sensation. But the upside is there. I cannot deny that. So now Juju Smith-Schuster was drafted. I figured that might be the case, but we've already got 3 really good wide receivers, so I feel good about that. The fact, okay, I want to point something else out. There's been a cold streak on tight ends, so I know I made the right pick, and I know this is partially because of the fact that it's basically AI's drafting. But George Kittle, where we drafted him, I mean, you could argue that we should have waited, but if we're trying to treat this as the real deal, then where we got him is right around the correct spot. Now we can go another running back. We can go Elijah Mitchell here. As far as wide receivers, Hunter Renfrow might not be a bad value pick. Looking at it at this point in time, yes, he's going to be behind Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, but, continuing to add depth, quarterback we can continue to wait on. I'm not going to be drafting a tight end. I've got George Kittle. If I draft a tight end, you better believe it's going to be my last pick. So here, let's go with Hunter Renfrow. And then if Elijah Mitchell is still somehow there in the next round, then I will go with him. I doubt that'll be the case. But for now, we're going to go Hunter Renfrow and then, figure out the rest afterwards. So I like the value there for Hunter Renfrow, all things considered. Now you see that run on tight ends. That makes sense. Like the AI was going to wake up at some point sooner or later. So just to show you guys the run on tight ends, it's not even, only the top 3 tight ends. After we went Renfrow, Elijah Mitchell was immediately afterwards, then Lockett, Damian Harris, Miles Sanders, Elijah Moore, Drake London, Clyde Edwards, Kareem Hunt, Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, Chase Edmonds, James Cook, TJ Hawkinson, Devin Singletary. Let's make a couple more picks here. Looking at the cheat sheet, Tony Pollard is interesting, but I don't have Ezekiel Elliott, so I don't feel too pressured to go with Pollard at this point in time. Russell Gage is intriguing, especially if something happens to Chris Godwin and his return is a little bit longer. So I might just load up on Russell Gage, but let's go with Melvin Gordon first. I think Melvin Gordon is somebody that's very valuable, especially if something happens to Javonte Williams. Like if there's an injury to Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon is arguably a top 10, top 15 running back. So I feel good about that. Now looking at our draft board, or I should say looking at our cheat sheet, let's go now with Russell Gage. So actually, I'm going to go with Allen Lazard ahead of Russell Gage first. That's the way we're going to do it. I think he has more upside for the majority of the season. So we go Allen Lazard, and then one of these final picks will be a quarterback because we're taking again advantage of the system. Probably not going to be too many backup quarterbacks drafted. I think there was only one, Trey Lance. So this allows us to go with Matthew Stafford with one of our picks, who I really, really like. He's my next highest ranked quarterback. And then we have got one final selection to make. Let's see what's left available. Cole Kmet is a guy that I've been on record saying that I really like. I could go with another quarterback, but I feel very good about Matthew Stafford. Let's get a potential breakout tight end here in Cole Kmet and round out our roster. I feel very good about this roster. Let's see what grade we get. We get a C. I think we should definitely be higher. So let's break it down. We have James Conner. We have Travis Etienne. I honestly think Etienne's probably finishes higher than James Conner. If we got Saquon Barkley in the 3rd round instead of James Conner, I would have been absolutely ecstatic. I would have called this like a B+, A- draft. We went wide receiver heavy with our first 2 picks, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, but we've got the 2 best wide receivers in this entire league. Then we got George Kittle, a difference maker at tight end. We got Terry McLaurin as our 3rd wide receiver. Even though I don't like him at his current ADP, we got a steal on Breece Hall in the end of the 7th round, so I'm okay with that. Then we got some very good value picks later on. Hunter Renfrow, Melvin Gordon, Allen Lazard, Cole Kmet, and Matthew Stafford. So I honestly think this is still like a B+, arguably, type of draft. We went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, going wide receiver back-to-back, but I thought the value was there, and I wanted to see how the roster would turn out. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you guys have any other questions, let me hear them in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Again, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Details in the description. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys in future videos.